Well, here we are in the third week of December football. And, well, you know what that means. The playoff picture is going to get even more fucked up, or maybe even less fucked up, if the football gods are nice to us, but probably not. But anyway, we're here to talk about week 15 of the 2023 NFL season as we get closer and closer to the end of the regular season and on our way to the playoffs. So the playoff picture may be getting narrowed down, but I don't know, man. 30 of 32 teams are still in the playoff hunt, and only 2 are eliminated. But actually, it's 29 of 32 teams are in the playoff hunt. So, excuse me, only 1 team has clinched so far, and that is my San Francisco 49ers. So, who's going to get in this week? We will see. We'll find out as we recap that later on next week. But as for this week, let's talk about the week that is to come. And that starts with Thursday Night Football, only on Prime Video, which already happened. As, boy, did the Clippers really clipper it up this week as they let the Raiders lay out a 60 burger on them. And 40 of that came in the first half. As there's really not much else to say, but Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders took advantage of all that clippering in the first half. Yeah, as they laid out a 40 burger, 42 points to be exact, in the first half, and then added 21 more in the second to lay out a 63-point burger over the over the Chargers, 63-21. So now let's get into the headlining 3-game slate for this week, and that is a Saturday Primetime Tripleheader only on the NFL Network, which most people can't watch, but nonetheless, it's Saturday Tripleheader only on the NFL Network, and that begins with 3 key playoff implication matchups. And that starts in the early morning with the Minnesota Vikings and the Cincinnati Bengals, both at 7-6, both trotting out backup quarterbacks. But for the Minnesota Vikings in this game, it's going to be a big one for them because this is going to be the third starting quarterback for them that they got to trot out because they decided to bench Josh Dobbs, their 2-month quarterback sensation that's been going around the league. But unfortunately, he shit the bed in Las Vegas against the Raiders coming out of the bye. And now they have to try out Nick Mullins and see and hope that he can boost up the Vikings' playoff hopes. But we'll see. Meanwhile, for the Bengals, in contrast to Nick Mullins, Jake Browning is actually having the Bengals offense, striving and kind of thriving and keeping them alive in the wild card race. So can he repeat that success in this game against Minnesota? We will see. So I kind of like their chances, so I'm going to go with the Bengals. So in the afternoon game, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Indianapolis Colts, both at 7-6. A key matchup here in the AFC wildcard race. But unfortunately for both of these teams, they came off bad losses in week number 14. The Steelers lost to the Patriots in that Thursday night game last week, and the Colts lost to the Bengals last week on Sunday. So for the Steelers, their loss was big because they not only shot themselves in the foot with that loss against the Patriots and potentially killing their own playoff hopes, but they opened up a whole can of worms for the teams below them, the Colts, the Texans, the Bills, to creep back up, give them some life to grab and steal one of the final seats in the playoff picture. So that wild card mess is still alive and well. And if they lose to the Colts here, then they're going to fall out of the picture completely. So for the Colts, though, their hopes are still alive. They're still technically the 7th seed despite losing to the Cincinnati Bengals. But just like with the Steelers, they got to win here or they're going to fall out of the picture completely as well. So I'm going to go with the Colts here. They have a slightly better offense than the Steelers. But, we'll see what happens. Then in the nightcap, we have the Denver Broncos at 7-6, taking on the 9-4 Detroit Lions. And for the Lions here, they really got to win this game because they are suddenly falling apart on both sides of the ball at a very bad time. Their defense is playing like hot shit. And yes, CJ Gardner-Johnson, their safety, is coming back. Not for this game, but coming back to practice the following week. But it's not enough. Him being back there in the middle of the field, it's not going to be enough to save that defense, in my opinion. But for this game, that offense needs to perform better. Jared Goff especially needs to perform better, take care of the football. But against this Broncos defense, that's playing steady, riding high, and on the offense, Russell Wilson's doing good too. Oh man, I think Denver's gonna win this game, especially with what's at stake for them as well. A chance to keep pace in the wild card race, and a chance to keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West. It's a very small chance, but you never know. You never know. So now let's get into the Sunday slate of games, starting with the early morning portion, as we have the Chicago Bears at 5-8 taking on the 8-5 Cleveland Browns. So the Bears are coming off that upset over the Detroit Lions. Justin Fields, he played good in that game for both his trade value, potentially in the offseason, and for spoiler purposes. So Joe Flacco and the Browns got to be careful here. They got to avoid a trap that could be coming in the Bears to keep hold of the AFC's 5th seed. So they're 8-5, but like I said with the Steelers, they got to avoid the trap below them. So I'm going to go with the Browns in this game. Yes, they did lose a couple of key starters on defense, but I think they will try to find a way to make it work. So in the AFC South, the NFC South, we have the 6-7 Atlanta Falcons taking on the 1-12 Carolina Panthers. So both of these teams lost in their division battles last week. The Falcons lost a critical matchup to the Bucs, while the Panthers lost to the Saints. I mean, no surprise there. So this is a rematch from well back in week 1 that the Falcons won at home against the Panthers. So for the Falcons, they really got to tighten up on defense, especially in the passing defense, because that cost them the game against Tampa Bay. That clutch touchdown for Baker Mayfield to Kate Otten. Yeah, if they really want to have a chance to stay alive in this NFC South race, they really got to tighten up their defense. Otherwise, they're not going to last at least the final last 2 weeks, this week and next. But I don't know. I'm going to pick the Falcons in this one, but yeah, the NFC South is looking like a division that nobody wants to win. So the Tampa Bay Bucs, speaking of, at 6-7, take on the also 6-7 Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. So the Bucs, they won that critical matchup to split the season series against the Falcons. But man, the Packers, they lost a game that they should have really won against the Giants because Jordan Love didn't look like the quarterback that he looked like in the last couple of weeks, pretty much the quarterback before that. But if the Packers really want to keep their playoff hopes alive, they cannot have a letdown like that anymore. Because look at the teams below them. The Rams, Seahawks, even the 5-8 teams and the Giants and the Bears somehow still alive in the playoff race. So they really cannot have a letdown like that anymore if they want to keep hold of the last playoff spot. Meanwhile, for the Bucs, their offense is kind of coming together a little bit at the right time. And Rachaad White, the running back, is bouncing out in a two-way form. So it works both ways for them. So I'm going to pick the Bucs to win this game. I think their offense is kind of doing a little bit better coming out into this game against the Packers. So we'll see. The New York Jets at 5-8 take on the 9-4 Miami Dolphins. The Jets coming off that upset win over the Texans, mainly thanks to their defense and also playing in part with the injuries from the Houston Texans. And Zach Wilson actually having a pretty good game. His best performance of his career so far. And he's hoping to have another good performance and maybe lead another upset victory and hoping to maybe boost his offseason value a little bit. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, that's a very bad upset loss to the Tennessee Titans on Monday night. And, they're being rightfully framed as frauds, including myself. So the Dolphins better win this game against a tough Jets defense. Because if they don't win like they did back at Black Friday, week 12 against this Jets team, then there's going to be serious problems, especially considering the very much tougher slate that has to come after this game in the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills. Oof. Then we have the New York Giants at 5-8 take on the 6-7 New Orleans Saints. The Giants coming off that upset win over the Packers, led by their quarterback, Tommy DeVito, not Danny DeVito. I might have said that in my recap, but Tommy DeVito looked pretty good in that Monday night game against the Packers, leading them to a clutch drive. Looking to repeat that breakout success this time on the road on a 2-game road trip. Meanwhile, for the Saints, they're trying to survive all these injuries on offense, but at the same time, their chances are kind of coming far and few between and trying to keep pace with the NFC South. So I'm going to go on a little bit of upset train here even more. I'm going to go with the Giants. So the Houston Texans at 7-6 take on the 5-8 Tennessee Titans. The Texans lost in an upset, but it just things keep getting worse with all the injuries, including to C.J. Stroud, who's at this time is still in the concussion protocol. He could potentially still miss this game against the Titans, and if he does, it's Davis Mills time, and that probably won't lead to good things. Meanwhile, for the Titans, Will Levis put on a really good show against the Miami Dolphins. So it's kind of starting to show a little bit that the Titans could build around Will Levis, add some more supporting help around him, mainly a better offensive line, maybe another receiver too. So yeah, this is this past few weeks has been a good audition for Will Levis, and I think the Titans might have found something. And you know, it's kind of crazy to say, but yeah, I say a lot of crazy things on here. So I'm gonna go with the Titans to win this game, especially if CJ Stroud doesn't get cleared from concussion protocol. The Kansas City Chiefs at 8-5 take on the 3-10 New England Patriots. The Chiefs lost in controversial fashion to the Bills. Although, can we say it's controversial because it was clearly offsides, even though the Chiefs keep bitching about it, keep bitching about stupid ref ball. But nonetheless, the Chiefs should be more concerned about, though, is the fact that Denver is now 1 game back of the AFC West. So, yeah, why don't you be more concerned about that? Why don't you be more concerned about your own receivers constantly dropping the ball? Why don't you complain more about that? Meanwhile, for the Patriots, I mean, there's not really much else to say. And yeah, they won the game, but I mean, they're out of playoff contention now. So maybe try to form up a game plan to try and upset these Chiefs. So probably that won't happen because, well, I'm picking the Chiefs. So then we have the afternoon slate of games. We have my San Francisco 49ers at 10-3, taking on the 3-10 Arizona Cardinals, coming off their bye week. But this Cardinals team is going to be vastly different than the one the Niners faced back in week 4. Josh Dobbs is not there anymore. Now you have Kyler Murray back from injury. So I'll have my usual full preview of this game in his own dedicated video, like as always. The Niners coming off a season sweep of the Seahawks in week 14, while the last time we saw the Arizona Cardinals, they come off their own upset of the Steelers back in week 13. So for both these teams, more specifically the Niners, they have a chance to wrap up the NFC West in this game, but they have to be really careful not to fall into another potential trap game here, especially considering that some of their defensive starters may not play in this game. Maybe they're trying to let them heal from their injuries from the last 2 games, but they got to be careful not to fall into a potential trap in the desert. Meanwhile, for Arizona, I mean, yeah, they're going through a rebuilding phase, but they might have found a new target for Kyler Murray, and that is Trey McBride, as evident by that Pittsburgh game. So I'm going to go with the Niners in this one, but again, beware of the trap in Arizona. The Washington Commanders at 4-9 take on the LA Rams at 6-7. The Rams lost to the Ravens in that overtime game, that crazy one in the rain. Well, the last time we saw the Commanders, they lost badly to the Dolphins back in week 13. And, you know, at this rate for Washington, pretty much their head coach, Ron Rivera, should pretty much just be counting his final days in the nation's capital. I mean, yeah, it's pretty much over for him over there. Meanwhile, for the Rams, they're still fighting for a playoff spot. But, you know, at this time, they're getting a couple key contributors on offense. I mean, other than Puka Nacua, you have the rookie tight end in Davis Allen. So, hey, at least they're getting support other than Cooper Kupp, per usual. So, I'm going to go with the Rams in this game easily. Then, in the big afternoon matchup for Sunday, we have the Dallas Cowboys at 10-3 taking on the 7-6 Buffalo Bills. On the Bills, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive as coming off that gutsy win in Kansas City. Meanwhile, for the Cowboys, they've had plenty of success in the last month or so mainly get scrubs, but they are coming off a big win over the Philadelphia Eagles, a blowout one with that last week. But their success is about to come to the test away from AT&T Stadium, and that begins on the road in Buffalo against the Bills. So I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this game. I mean, the Bills had a lot of flaws, but we will see. Anything can happen. So then we have the Sunday Night Football game for week number 15. Yeah, I'm kind of losing track here. As the Baltimore Ravens at 10-3 take on the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars at 8-5. So the Ravens came off that crazy overtime game, as I mentioned before, against the Rams. As the Jaguars, though, on the contrary, they lost to the Browns, even though they decided to trot out Trevor Lawrence with that bum ankle. But, it's just, other than Trevor Lawrence, there are a bunch of other injuries affecting the Jaguars as well. So it became kind of evident against the Browns. So it might be well aware of that against the Ravens too. Another top 5 defense in the NFL. Meanwhile, for the Ravens, they're starting to stake their claim as, well, pretty much the AFC's best. I mean, look at teams like the Chiefs. Look at the teams like the Jaguars. Look at the Dolphins. They pretty much show this week that there are a lot of flaws on that team, on those teams. Meanwhile, for the Ravens, there are some cracks on them as well, but they're kind of starting to show that they're coming together, especially coming off that bye. Yes, it wasn't a perfect performance from them, but their offense is starting to gel together, especially without Mark Andrews out there. I mean, he makes that offense still flow, but their defense makes the stops when it can, and the offense comes in clutch as well. So I'm going to go with the Ravens in this game, and there's no question about it. Then we have the Monday Night Football game of week number 15. That's actually a flex game over the original one, being the Chiefs and the Patriots. And that's the Philadelphia Eagles at 10-3, taking on the Seattle Seahawks at 6-7. Both of these teams coming off pretty bad losses, as the Eagles got their butts whooped by the Cowboys on the road, and the Seahawks losing to the 49ers and getting swept in the season series. So Seattle's playoff hopes are pretty much on the brink of death, as if they weren't already last week. But this is a game where there's pretty much their entire season is on the line at home against a team that, well, they pretty much beat in the last, I think there's a thing that I saw on Twitter was like the last 15 years, the Seahawks have beaten the Eagles. So against a team that they pretty much had a good track record of, their season is on the line here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they don't beat the Eagles here, then it's over for Seattle. Meanwhile, for the Eagles defense, they're under very serious scrutiny after that 4-game gauntlet that showcased so many of their flaws. Like, they can't cover the middle of the field. They get beat on explosive plays. It's gotten very bad for that Eagles defense. And sometimes that Eagles offense can't really produce as well as they did last year. So I'm still taking the Eagles to win this game because, well, Seattle is a much worse team than them. But the Eagles, if they want to keep pace with the Cowboys and the 49ers, they got to clean up some of those things that were on full display in these last 2 games. So those are my picks. That is my preview for week number 15 of the 2023 NFL season. Expect the playoff picture to get completely rammed in the butt, completely get chaotic once more, maybe even less chaotic this week, but that remains to be seen. But let me know your picks. Let me know your preview. There will be some teams that clinch this week, maybe not. But as always, let me know who you're going with against in the comments below. Anyway, this is DylanLasagna signing out of another preview and picks for this week in the NFL season. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until the next one, peace out.